What is up? Hi. Today, sorry about that. Today we are doing Ziggy Stardust, The Rise and Fall of Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars by David Bowie.
I thought you were going to say his middle name for a second, and I was like, what is David Bowie's middle name? Is David Bowie's not his real name, is it?
Probably not, no. I can't imagine your last name being Bowie.
What about the guy? Wait, no, okay. I'm not going to get involved in that, but there are people whose last name is Bowie, such as the Bowie knife. Who's that guy?
I thought you said a Bowie knife's last name is Bowie.
No, but the guy that the Bowie knife is named after, that was his real name. But no, I don't think David Bowie's his real name, nor is Ziggy Stardust.
Surprisingly.
His persona that he embodies.
If you name your child Ziggy Stardust, you hate him.
Or you are Frank Zappa. I love Frank Zappa.
Anyways, of course, rock opera. I think you guys, if you're watching this, I'd be very surprised if you don't know who David Bowie is. If you're watching this podcast, he's David Bowie. You know, he's
listening.
Legend.
They're listening to this podcast.
This is an audio medium, yes.
Well, you could be watching it on YouTube, and you could be like, that's. I'm just gonna let that sit there, so you can just suffer for that.
All right. Do we want to get into the record?
Yes. Let's get into the record. Let's get into the questions.
Do we want to get into the questions? You want
Yes,
to talk
yes.
about what this style of record is?
Rock opera.
Rock opera?
Rock opera. You've heard multiple.
What's it about?
We've covered rock operas here before. We covered Black Parade.
This rock opera specifically is about a world doomed. 5 years is all they have left. And this alien kind of comes to Earth, and he sees the ways that we love each other. And he's so inspired by it that he becomes a rock star. And
to lead to more inspiration.
Yes.
Which also, though, eventually leads to his own issues with becoming separate from the entity of a band in which he is the most important aspect of it, and whatever that entails in head trauma that causes one inside of itself, right?
This album's funny because it kind of switches from being about this alien to being almost autobiographical to Bowie.
Right. I get that.
Like, he felt like he is Ziggy Stardust in so many ways.
I think he said he started having troubles differentiating between the two.
I remember reading that he got so involved with this persona of Ziggy Stardust that he kind of like it took over him in a lot of ways.
And I think it said in a couple of places I read that a singer named Vince Taylor had a mental breakdown and thought he was something between an alien and a god, in that he kind of stole that story from there. But I also can't help, I've always thought maybe it's just the line, he played it left hand but made it too far. But I always thought of Hendrix, because Hendrix was kind of an otherworldly talent.
Oh yeah.
And I always kind of wondered, like, if maybe the interview's out there where he says whether or not it has something to do with that, or maybe I just created that in my head. But I have always thought of Ziggy Stardust in a weird, because I know that Hendrix had to go to London to make it. You know what I mean? Like, the States didn't really get it. And when he got over there are stories of how each of these British super popular people, like Clapton goes and picks up Townsend, and they go see Hendrix in a theater, and they look at each other and they're like, well, we're out of business. I mean, look at that guy. You know what I mean? And I'm sure that all of them over there had the same effect on them. You know what I mean? And so I've always wondered if, and I know that Hendrix suffered from feeling isolated from the people around him to some degree because of just not being able to be understood, probably some drug abuse, those kind of things too that go along with it. Oh, anyway, so how did we feel about the opener?
5 years.
I loved it. I felt like it was perfect for what it needed to be.
A
tale of despair.
You immediately know this is not a singles-driven album, right? They didn't put the first song in there because it bumps pretty good and you can dance to it. The first song is to explain the first chapter of the book,
to set the stage.
and it's also a good song.
Oh yeah, oh, dude, yes, dude. His delivery of like the 5 years line, especially towards the end of the song. Oh, dude, phenomenal.
He's so good. Especially at the little things.
Oh yeah,
The
details.
Right, absolutely. Now, how do we feel about the closer?
Rock and Roll Suicide. This was probably one of my favorite songs, I might have to say. I thought it was
just in general or on the album.
On the album specifically. I like it, but not quite. No, just the way that it talks about things kind of mirrors the despair.
Oh, you're not alone.
Yes, it kind of mirrors and inverts the despair from the first song into kind of hope, even in times of despair, because Ziggy Stardust goes up and down in his ride as a rock and roll star.
As an androgynous alien on a dying planet might do.
Exactly. But at the end, there's still a lot of hopefulness in the song.
It's so sweepingly epic.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
It is a phenomenal song. It's stands alone. It closes out a story so well. It contrasts the almost. I think you'll talk about it in a minute, but it contrasts the almost out of placeness of a jam like Suffolk City, which is one of the great David Bowie songs. But you could see where he puts it in there, and it does have first of all, the "Don't Lean on Me, Man, because you can't afford the ticket." All of that could be some form of a "you don't understand who I am" type of thing, which does kind of fit inside of this as a man from somewhere else. But also it does feel like more of a rocker that maybe doesn't quite fit in the middle of all of this.
Yeah.
But I think the way the last song pulls it back in makes some sense.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Now, what is your fave? Ray, did you want to talk about the last? I apologize.
I pretty much just mirrored everything Jared said. Like.
Okay. What is your favorite? Oh, so let's start with least favorite songs. What's your least favorite song, Ray?
That's a tough one. I don't necessarily dislike any of the songs here. Maybe Star? I don't know. I don't know if I can pick one.
For me, I don't think It Ain't Easy fits great on this record.
It's a bluesy romp.
Yeah, and it is a cover to start with, and I just don't think it really helps push the album forward much at that point. If I could remove it from the album, I think the album would be overall better for it. But it's still a good song. I still enjoy listening to it. It's just going through the album, it just feels like it kind of spins its wheels at this point.
All right, I like it. It's like I like a little.
I love how punchy it is.
Right, I like the bluesiness of it. I just like the song. I don't have a song I don't like on here. I just found it a very quick, easy way to go around driving and listening to music. What was your favorite song?
I love Starman.
Dude.
Oh, Starman. Oh my God.
I just love
again, epic.
There's something kind of uplifting about Starman in a strange way, and I can't really pin down why. And I think that's kind of what I love about it. Of course, the chorus is incredible. The verses are incredible. Everything about that song is...
Well, then, it fits so beautifully into what all this is. It Starman and Rock and Roll Suicide, Ziggy Stardust, Lady Stardust, Star, all those songs have that spacey, cool, beautiful thing that he's trying to do to us. And what I would guess the message of an alien trying to show you there's more than just your sorrows here. You know what I mean? I feel...
place the album in its time as well. Early 70s.
Yeah.
A lot of doom and gloom starting to really creep around the whole world.
Absolutely. Overwhelming.
So at this point, that's why I feel like that this album is so self-mythologizing and autobiographical for Bowie.
In a strange way, hasn't man always kind of looked to the stars when they run out of hope?
Yeah, absolutely.
You know,
whether literally, figuratively,
creating gods
out of
I see Zeus
out of rock and roll stars.
Right.
Whether you create a god out of a constellation in the sky.
What is astrology? Right. It's just us creating a.
So again, this album is self-mythologizing, and to me, it's the story of David Bowie. Because again, like, David Bowie just is Ziggy Stardust.
Absolutely.
It might have been a persona, but it was him for a while.
Right.
So he comes in and he sees that the world is full of despair, full of fear, the Cold War, and any number of
right.
those things that were happening. Vietnam, stuff like that, where he sees this, and it can feel very much like the world is ending in 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Or less.
Right.
You don't know. So for him to, like, he looks at himself like he's an outsider, an alien,
right,
who really likes rock and roll and love, and that's him wanting to do that.
Right. Michael DeBar hosts a show on a fantastic radio station called Little Steven's Underground Garage, and when he talks of Bowie, I remember I can't remember. I'm not going to try to quote it exactly because I think that I will miss it. But the point of what he's saying is Bowie was a completely social outcast. He was himself somewhat of an androgynous man in a time period where that would be bullied. He was thin. He had red hair. He had all these things, and yet he does through music become this thing. And he's such a great collaborator. That's the one beautiful thing about his whole career. Like Mick Ronson is with him here early, but then as he goes through time, he continues to compile different bands and create different sounds and morph into these different things. And this is one in which is really close to his heart anyway, right? And so he's able to really encapsulate every word that comes out of his mouth over the course of this album. What's your favorite?
Ooh, maybe Rock and Roll Suicide. But again, it's just like there's chunks of this album to me are the standout parts more than any specific song, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
If you're asking for other favorites, I do love Soul Love and Moon Age Daydream. Actually, the entire first half of this album to me is impeccable. And the second half is also really great.
I find this record, because they say that, you know, he took the melding of stuff, right? He says he took a little bit of Iggy Pop and a little bit of Lou Reed and a little bit of Mark Bolan, who's T-Rex, and a little bit of King Crimson and a little bit of Hendrix, and he kind of morphs that all into one thing. You know what I mean? And I find like the punk songs fascinate me on here. Like Hang On To Yourself, they almost sound like Cherry Bomb in a way until they get rolling, and it's just, I find it fascinating. But I absolutely love Starman, like you said, and I'm a huge mark for Suffrage City, but I do think Rock and Roll Suicide is my favorite. Suffrage City is one of those songs that I've heard on the radio for years and years and years. It's right there with They Call Me the Diamond Dogs or Gene Genie, these hits that Bowie's had. And like you said, it does stand away from the rest of it, you know what I mean, because it's just a rock song. But that's why I think I do really want to wrap my arms around Rock and Roll Suicide, because it brings it all back together. All the loose strings are now back in the shirt or whatever. Is there a saying that goes with all the loose strings are back in the...
Yeah, where are these loose strings supposed to be coming from, actually? I never thought about that.
Right. I don't know where they finish. Back in the yarn? I don't know. Sorry about that, guys. Okay.
We were talking about David Bowie.
Right, and all of his loose strings.
There's nothing I love more than arguing about words, though.
Yeah, absolutely. How do you feel about the backing band?
Good, I suppose.
Oh.
Like the composition of these songs was phenomenal, and the playing was very good. So good.
Dude, you have Lady Stardust and Star are both kind of piano driven, even though he had lost his keyboard player before this. Ronson is just a fantastic player. I think if you listen to Moon Age Daydream, sometimes, dude, those last 30 seconds can sound like the guitar solo in Hotel California, which is weird. It's like an outro. And I know that I don't remember which one came. What year was this exactly?
1972.
Hotel California was released in...
Way after this. I would doubt either one
Early
purposely.
80s, I think.
Yeah, it was released in like early 80s, late 70s.
Right. So I don't think that Walsh would purposely copy it.
1976 to be exact.
But it really has that. It has that same little. Go back and listen to the last 30 seconds. I'm telling you, it'll spot you out right there. You'll be like, oh wow, that kind of. Oh, I get it.
For it, yeah.
Right. I wasn't looking for it. It just hit me. Okay, how do you feel about the actual opera portion?
Like the story behind it and the.
For me, and I guess this is like the only point of criticism I can really bring against the album, is like the first and separate half can often feel disparate, where it's just like the first is about this alien wanting to save the world through the power of love, and then the second is about like disillusionment with being a rock star, which I think is an interesting dynamic, but I don't feel like it's quite as cohesive as I wanted it to be. I think there are maybe a couple of alleyways that it gets stuck in for a little bit before moving on. But it's not like a major thing. You know what I mean?
Right. I get it. Yeah, I don't have those issues with it. I find it fascinating, the whole thing. But what about you, buddy?
I agree with Dad on this one. I
don't think it's agree with it. It's personal preference.
I felt like,
you know what I mean? It's not.
I feel like, despite how it can sometimes be jumbled, I feel like both stories are so compelling that meshing them together isn't really a bad thing.
Hey, and remember, back then you flipped the record over.
That's true. That's something I've noticed with a lot of these like older records we've gotten to, is just like there is a distinct
difference between side one and side two.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you don't think about it like that. You know what I mean? But because nowadays you don't listen to music like that.
No, I just load up a YouTube video where I go on Spotify and it just plays it.
The whole thing, right? Instead of getting up, walking over, and flipping it over, you're in your car and the tape runs out and you pull it out. You guys are so lucky.
Yeah.
Although the kid here is into vinyl, so he's actually flipping records.
I think that. Yeah, I kind of agree with you guys.
Mm-hmm.
I was trying to add something, but I think you guys nailed it on the head.
What would we like to rate this record?
8.
Strong 9.
Man, I think I have to give it a 10. I did not. Like I haven't listened to this version. Like I've listened to the live version to some, where the touring version of it some. I've listened to a lot of greatest hits compilations of his, anthologies. I've listened to this record, but it's been decades since I sat down and listened to it. And I think you were the one. We sat down in the car the day after we decided we went riding somewhere. We came back, and you mentioned to me, we were 7 songs in, and you said how easy it is to listen to Ray.
Yeah.
You told how easy it is to listen to it, that it just, every song, it's not 12-minute epic trying to figure out what all's going on. Everything fits. Everything's easy. It's just a beautiful record.
Absolutely.
All right. So what did we listen to this week, Ray?
It's Halloween, so I did listen to a lot of stuff that was
orchestral soundtracks.
Well, not soundtracks. No, like a lot. Like, how do I say
things that go bump in the night?
Yeah, Nick Cave, Swans.
Oh, like scary music that rocks.
Yeah, kind of creepy. Nick Cave's pretty creepy. I like how you. I like how none of your jokes nailed.
Just keep throwing them out there. Maybe you hit one.
Dude.
Just keep throwing them. It's all good.
See what sticks.
Okay. New music this week. Did you hear any new music this week?
You played. The Busta Rhymes not album, but the single with Kendrick Lamar.
There is an album.
There is an album. They just dropped. He just dropped a single and then dropped an entire album. It was the
Busta Rhymes too.
Thing. Busta Rhymes did?
Yeah.
Busta.
He dropped a single.
Like it. It's cuss. I mean, it's it's Busta Rhymes. It's braggadocious, but he's smart. He's quick-lipped.
It's almost
beats
like
are good.
It's almost like Kendrick. It's almost like I forgot how good Kendrick was, and then he just showed up again.
Right. Right. Billy Joe Armstrong continued his
No Fun Mondays covers stuff.
Right. He actually released
Ever since, if you want to know, ever since quarantine has started, he has been just doing covers every, say, Monday or Friday.
He released a song called That's Rock and Roll, which was a 1976 song written and recorded by Eric Carmen of the famed Raspberries that would become a hit a year later for a teen idol named Sean Cassidy.
Interesting.
And when I was hearing it, I could not believe it because I probably haven't heard that song. My sister may have played that song when I was 9.
Yeah.
But it was, for whatever reason, it was high. It stuck. You know what I mean? Because when I heard it, I was like, wait a minute, is that Sean? What? But, music's funny like that. It travels. Elton John, they released a song off his new, basically B-sides compilation called Come Down in Time, a jazz version of it.
Yeah.
The Zach De La Rocha Outkast Bombs Over Baghdad remix was released this week.
The original was better, but this was it's still pretty good.
I mean, it's Rage Against the Machine playing backup for
Outcast, yeah, don't get much better than that.
Yeah, I don't know if you can say evolve Bombs Over Baghdad. I don't really know if you can make it better, but they tried.
Okay. One thing too.
Should we talk about the abysmal Under Pressure cover from
Majestic.
From that? What was her name?
Karen O or something.
Karen O and
with Willie Nelson.
With Willie Nelson.
A nice, drawn out, very slow version of Under Pressure. Because I don't know if you know this, but pressure comes in different forms, my friend.
Why would you slow down Under Pressure, though? Isn't
the point of it to seem manic?
Isn't the point
not
of
to
it,
this country singer, it's not.
No.
Isn't the point of the entire song is that we're under pressure, but there's still, like, hope there, and that's why it sounds the way it does.
That's Bowie's counter to Freddie's Panic, right?
Yes.
I don't know anything about this cover. I heard nothing about it, but from the way y'all are talking about it, it seems like it was not very good.
I did not mind it, but
I hated it.
My good friend here wanted me to change it.
I thought it,
which meant I stuck with it a little longer.
Yeah, that's kind of how that works. You got to play the game, right? You got to play the game.
I thought
I love it. Play it again. All right, click.
Exactly.
I thought it was genuinely abysmal. I don't get why you would slow down Under Pressure out of all songs.
Well, I do think that there is a place for different versions of different songs, and I know Willie has done well over the years in taking something. He does a really good Time After Time by Cyndi Lauper that is just spot. But I also think Willie's getting to the point where he really amazed me for a long time that he could still do it vocally. And this version here, and maybe he thought it fit the song, but he talks through it. And my disconnect with the song was more, I really like hearing Willie Nelson sing because he's a very good singer. Timeless. And I felt like he was talking too much here. And I really wanted to hear him do something other than be gravelly because it felt, and I think Willie's a big enough star, he wouldn't do this. It felt like I'm trying to do Johnny Cash here. How Johnny kind of graveled through those last couple of records. You know what I mean?
Yeah, how he graveled through Hurt. And you're not going to make Hurt like
Rusty
You're
Cage.
not going to make either Hurt. You know?
Okay, funny story. I made Ray listen to some music this weekend. We were driving around too. That is older music, and I said, and he's been on a bit of I Hate Aerosmith kick anyway, as we know.
I haven't been on
this episode.
I listen, all right,
dude.
I don't hate Aerosmith. I hate a couple albums by Aerosmith.
You don't even believe in spitting, and if we're outside and you say Aerosmith, you immediately spit. That happens.
It just like what?
It's crazy.
What?
On grass, though. It's not too bad. But, okay, so point here is I put the Black Crowes on and had him listen to a record called Southern Harmony and Musical Companion.
And I said, word for word. Okay, I'm going to tell this.
Go with it. This is great.
I said, word for word. This is like if Aerosmith kept their dignity throughout the 90s.
Well,
I was like
if they
what?
Didn't, like, if they didn't sell their soul and made Pink, this is what they'd sound like.
And I think that was a compliment.
That was a compliment.
But not to Aerosmith.
No.
That was an insult to Aerosmith and a compliment to Black Crowes.
Do we know what we're going to do next week?
No. Let's check out.
Did we enjoy listening to music this week? I think we did. I enjoyed it.
Of course, I actually did listen to a lot more music than I'm leading on.
Bowie's one of those guys that it's like Prince in a lot of ways, where their discography is so
vast and has so many classics.
Yeah, that's the thing where it's like, dang, where do I even start with Bowie?
And it's funny too because they're completely different artists, but there are correlations in the fact that every record can be different from the last, and they have like you're talking about like even just record alone. You had a normal rock song, you had a pop rock song, you had glam rock songs, you had punk rock songs, you had sweeping epics,
yes,
all in there. You know what I mean? And then like he'd go, China Girl, Modern Love. It's funny. He also did his style. I remember a guy came up to me one day. He was arguing with his girlfriend, and he ran over to me and he goes, "KP, come here." And I'm like, "What?" He goes, "She's trying to tell me that David Bowie used to wear dresses." And I'm like, "Well, yeah."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Nah, man. I mean, the David Bowie that would always wear double-breasted suits."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Yeah, that was 80. That was 82, 83." He was, there was a moment in time where he's wearing T-shirts and leather jackets. There's a moment in time where he's dressed up like Ziggy Stardust. Moment in time when he's wearing a three-piece suit. He not only changed the music. There was a moment in time where he's running around with Trent Reznor. You know what I mean? It's just what all he managed to put out there into the world, fashion, music, everything. And those things are comparable to Prince.
Absolutely. When he reinvented his music, he reinvented himself in so many ways. So there's, if you look, I can't think, when I think David Bowie, like 7 different images pop in my mind.
Of course.
Because they're all him at certain points in time.
And one, if you...
Eye Patch Ziggy, Aladdin Sane with the face paint,
Labyrinth.
Scary Monsters
Labyrinth.
with the...
Yeah.
Dude, even like Black Star, David Bowie.
Pull up the...
Scary Monsters.
Scary Monsters. Diamond Dogs with a horrid cover.
Dude, where he's half dog, half... I was just thinking, I was going to say, pull up the Diamond Dogs cover and tell me that doesn't weird you out. You'll never unsee that.
But that's the thing. He for a large portion of his career, he reinvented himself. He mixed androgynous, that kind of
whatever.
Stuff. Everything. Anything he could get into, which is why he and his music and his image are such an inspiration for so many people.
Right.
Dude, the Metal Gear games are literally just like 10 different versions of David Bowie.
Right.
It's literally
so right.
It's literally like Hideo Kojima loves David Bowie. All of his characters look like David Bowie in some form or another.
Right.
Every single one of them. It's hilarious.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, the designer for Ziggy Stardust outfits and all that was a Japanese film designer, right?
Yeah.
Film clothing designer. Yeah. Right.
Dude, it's so cool, but talking about David Bowie's legacy, it can be very daunting to kind of get into it.
Right. It's like looking into the sun.
This is a great place to start.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
This might be the best place to start. After this, you might do Hunky Dory, and then Aladdin Sane. Low, and then you go into the 70s, low, and then you go 80s with Scary Monster. Just all of it.
Like, I owned the Changes Greatest Hits thing for a long time. I just don't know what happened to it, but that was like, you dip your toe in it and then you're like, oh wow, well now I need to go find a record, right? Because if all this is this good, then he has to be telling stories in here somewhere, and then you dive into this, and it's like, well wait, maybe I should rent. Back then you did this thing called renting movies, and I rented Glass Houses, and Peter Frampton was this lead guitarist on this tour, and it was this epic spider behind him. No, it was a glass spider, not Glass Houses. Yes. Sorry. Glass spider behind him, streaming down, and Frampton's playing guitar, and it's just over the top spectacular. Oh, every detail from who was standing behind him to which way the lights were shining on him or the people around him was spot on at all times.
Absolutely.
Now, what are we listening to next week?
What are we listening to? So, next time we will be listening to 2000s indie rock classic, The Strokes. Is This It? Released in 2001, has garnered multiple just
Stroke man. Could be a
No,
winner, boy, you move quite well.
I don't think that's the Strokes.
Oh.
Don't necessarily think so.
Anyways,
Who was that? Who did sing
Billy
that song?
Squire.
Yeah, right.
okay. Let's stay on the topic.
Stroke.
I could nothing.
Which cover? Which cover of Is This It are we listening
Geez,
to?
I wonder which one. I wonder which one we're going to be putting on YouTube.
Probably the one that is not a butt.
All right.
Yeah, that'd be likely.
fair.
Garnered so much online
I mean, I
critical
love,
reception and all
I
that.
love the album covers for this album. They're both perfect in their own way.
I think I actually like the golden ratios more a little bit, mostly because
I love the color contrast.
Mostly because it just, to me, it examples how the music sounds perfectly.
Is that a rap?
Absolutely, that is a rap.
That
I
is a
believe.
rap.
So for
Stop. Get away from the microphone. Yeah, that's better.
They were going. He was going in for the
The ASMR.
yes.
So, for Jared, KP, and
Ray. I have to say your name, Ray.
and me.
Ray.
No, you didn't have to say my name.
it's his podcast.
And
We have
me.
to it's like Roman Reigns and Jay. We have to bow to him or we're out of the family.
Tribal
What,
chief, huh?
No.
Yeah.
That's fair. That's fair.
No.
It is so fair. It is so fair. It's a Go Home Heat production, copyright 2020. Ray's musical review.
Go home. Please.
Thank you.
Stop.